I'm Brian Way with Kaizen Inserts, and I'm going to give you a quick lesson on working with Kaizen Foam using the Kaizen Cut Kit. So the first thing I want to mention is the color. You choose black or you choose sandwich, which is the black on the outside and the white on the inside. Now, why do you need both colors? Some people ask. Most people do choose the black, but I'm going to show you for visual management, a lot of people like to have the white on the inside. So you can see the difference from across the room. When a tool is missing from its spot, you can see why the white is beneficial. All right, so the next thing is the three markers. We have silver, gold, and black. So on these markers, you have a fat end and a skinny end, the long nose end. So here's your black, gold, and silver. So one thing to keep in mind is before this stuff really dries well, after you trace out your tool and cut it, you can actually take a rag and wipe it off. It takes a few minutes to dry, so if you wait too long, it's not going to come off. So the next thing I want to go over is the choice of three different knives. This is the tri-blade. It has a 3/4 inch wide blade, and really what this blade is used for is the overall trimming length and width of your foam. Because it's a heavy duty blade, it cuts it doesn't wave a lot, and it stays straight. The other blade is the Kaizen knife. This is the one you will probably use most. It has a skinnier blade. It will allow you to do your curve cuts quite easily. However, when it comes to cuts like this, when you're going around these really tight radiuses and circles, you're going to want to use the thin blade. Now, the biggest problem with the thin blade is people go in and they use it, and this blade wiggles all over the place. So this blade is actually meant to use in the full extension position, so the blade hits each side of the knife and holds it rigid. So that will allow you to be able to cut really fine circles without it looking so choppy. So another quick note of this blade, you could put reference points on here like I do, so when you're holding down a tool, you can just quickly look at that line and you know how deep you want to cut when you're tracing around that tool. We'll get to that next. So if you really want to get tricksy, I've taken a thin blade, cut it, and put it on a sander and made it really thin. It just makes it a little easier to handle. These are hardened blades, they don't cut easily, and if you're going to sand that radius back into it to keep it sharp, you're going to need something like a belt sander to do it. What you have over here is your replacement blades. You have 10 in each pack. So on the tri-blade, this is the only knife that actually comes with a little reservoir of 2 blades in it already. So you really have 12 extra blades in this kit for this blade. Now the blades do get dull pretty quickly, so you'll want to keep changing them to keep that sharp edge to do a really nice job on the foam. So it's also, you have the Kaizen blades, 10 of those, and you also have 10 of the thin blades as well. So a quick note on changing the blades. You take the blade extender, this black tab, and you pull it down and the blade will come out. You have this little tab on here. Make sure it goes right back in the hole, slide it in, and it's that easy. They all work the same way. Pull it down, put that back in the hole, slide it in, you're good to go. So the last item in this Kaizen Cut Kit is the holster, and you can buy the cut kit with or without the holster. It's only a $10 option, but I highly recommend it. And this will allow you to do your perfect finger hole pulls every time. So after you cut the tool in, this allows you finger hole pulls very easily. Alright, so here's your quick lesson on cutting in tools. So when you're cutting in a solid steel tool, I don't even like to trace it with a marker. I think it's much quicker and more efficient to put it down. And because this is long and straight, what I would do is I will take the Kaizen knife, and you don't need to cut down too far. You really only need the tool flush with the foam. So you would take this tool, follow it along. You get really straight lines with the Kaizen blade. And you could take your thin blade, and that gets around those radiuses really tight. Here's the version that I made. I find it a little bit easier to use, and you could really hold those tight radiuses and edges around the wrench instead of having to trace it with a marker. Alright, so here's the biggest problem, what everybody comes into. This foam is not just made to peel out. It's just going to tear and it's not going to work right. You're going to want to get your finger under the foam, like this, and you're using the tip of your finger as a snowplow. And just pulling that foam up. Don't just pull it. Snowplow it up so it comes out, and now you can try the depth of your tool. Might want it out a little more over here. Alright, see how nice and tight that fits, but you can't get it out very easily. So this is where the HOLEster comes in. I usually just like to use the pinch points of where I'm going to pick up the tool. So say right in the middle, and when you're cutting out this foam, I usually like to hold the center point. So you use your fingers as a guide, just hold it and give it a quick spin. One on each side. Just like that. There you have it. Put it in, really easy access. So say you want to store some tape in here. This is rubbery, and if you run your blade against it, you're probably going to cut through a few layers of it. So something like tape or something soft, I would just take the long nose marker and trace it around. Now you can see that circle. Now I'm going to use the knife that I cut. You can use the long one as well. And I do find it important to stay on the inside of the line, otherwise whatever it is you're cutting in is really going to end up being too loose. And if you make it a little bit smaller, the foam will conform to the shape of whatever it is that you're cutting in. Again, fingers under it, snowplow your way through it. Push that in there, and you could choose to use the center to pull it out. So I'm going to use the HOLEster again. One is all that's necessary, so now you can easily grab it. Of course, you can take a knife and you can cut that radius as well, but it'll come out choppy and they're all going to be inconsistent. I like the consistency of seeing all the finger hole pulls the same size. That's just the OCD in me. Alright, so let's say you have a bulkier tool, whether it's a drill, a laser, or whatever it may be, and you can see the thickness of this is almost the same thickness of the foam. So there's a couple ways that we could do this. You could cut it all the way through and then stack this on another piece of thin foam so it has the foam below it, or you can cut it 3/4 of the way through and peel it out. So that's what we'll try to do. But because of the size of this, you're definitely going to want to trace it with the marker. So now you can see it a little better. This, because there's really no tight radiuses, I'm going to choose to use the Kaizen knife. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set the depth of the blade from this point so it doesn't exceed the bottom. I don't want to cut through the bottom because I want to separate the layers of foam. So we'll see how this works. And this is a little bulkier, and so when you're cutting things like this, make sure you're not angling it in, because that means you're making the opening tighter at the bottom and it'll be harder to get the tool. Stay perfectly straight or overcompensate by going a little outwards. I want to peel this one out in layers. I already had something cut there, I guess. Alright, see if it works. It's not a bad fit. And this is still sticking up, so you can still grab it, but to give it that little extra, put a finger hole pull in there, one on each side. So now when you put it in there, if that's how you grab it, very easy. Stop the struggle. So I hope this video helped you guys out in the basics of cutting out foam and what the tools are for. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments or feel free to email me. The contact number and information is all below in the description. Alright, so that's all for now. I hope that guys helped you out with a couple of tips and tricks to make your Kaizen foaming a little bit easier.